Perfect, we can begin now. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Welcome to Connect for session 12, today's online event, Clean Air Freight Lessons Learnt. My name is Rachel Aldridge, Communications Project Manager at Cross River Partnership. So today we will be hearing from Amandeep Singh Kale, who will be presenting about impact on urban health's air quality programmes. Isadora Rivera-Volmer, who from Cross River Partnership, Senior Project Officer, will be giving an introduction to CRP's Impact on Urban Health funded project Clean Air Freight. And finally, Richard Aitken from Steer, who will be presenting on the rail freight study side of the programme. And then we will go to a quick Q&A where you have a chance to ask any questions for our speakers. But as usual, please put your questions in the Teams chat, and if you're having any technical issues, then Ross will be able to help you there. And just a quick background on CRP. CRP is working in partnership to deliver environmental, economic and community-focused projects. We support public and private and voluntary sectors to address creativity challenges around air quality, transport, placemaking and wellbeing. And a huge thank you to Impact on Urban Health for funding the Clean Air Freight programme, which is focused in Lambeth and Southwark. And this is our last session of the Connect 4 series. We've had 12 events, including this one, 39 speakers on topics like ESGs in the workplace, parks across London, active travel, sustainable design in the public realm, freight, air quality. So yeah, we've had over 700 people tuning in across the year. And thank you for making these sessions really special and informative. And we're really excited to announce our 2023 series, CRP Conversations 2, which you're all invited to and you'll hear a bit more about later on. But we've got a lot to get through in the next 45 minutes. So firstly, to start the conversation on clean air freight and impact on urban health, I'm going to hand over to Amandeep, Portfolio Manager for Impact on Urban Health.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the presentation. So I've got a lot of slides, but they're not all relevant to freight. So I will skip through quite a few of the beginning slides, but I think it's going to be shared with people. So if you're interested in any of these topics, do. So Impact on Urban Health is a health foundation in South London. We're based, our remit is Southwark and Lambeth, and we have 4 programs. Childhood obesity, multiple long-term conditions, children's mental health, and the health effects of air pollution. So why air pollution? So I actually probably don't need to explain this to this audience, but basically lots of people are affected in central London, and these people tend to be have lower incomes and more vulnerable. So we see air pollution as a health inequality issue and a social and racial justice issue too. We all know transport makes up a massive proportion of where air quality emissions come from, air pollution emissions, and you can see more information about this kind of graphic on our website. So we have 3 kind of strands to our work. One, we want to amplify the voices of people that aren't generally heard in this discussion. We want to reduce people's exposure in various environments, and we want to work with businesses and communities and governments to find equitable solutions. So the amplifying voices strand is all about bringing out people's voices, like listening, learning, engaging, and we fund Moms for Lungs, for example, and research, community research, and research in the academic sense too. So this is a recent campaign we did called the Live and Breathe campaign in South London, where we had a festival, but it was about air pollution kind of ran through it. So there's loads of information here, which I won't go into now, but I believe these slides will be shared. The other strand is about where people spend their time at home or at workplaces and schools, and we set up the air pollution help desk for schools to kind of call in and think about how they can improve or reduce the air quality the air pollution impact in school environments. And in homes where kind of this is still ongoing and we haven't, it's about indoor air quality, and at this time of year and with the cost of living crisis, it's all the more important. So now we come to like what I'm here to talk about, and it's about working with businesses and freight. So we have two sectors that we really want to focus on: the freight sector and construction. One of the earlier projects we did, these are some of our freight partners. There's Crossroad Partnership, Team London Bridge there, and some of our construction partners. So this is one of the projects that we did recently was with where we kind of funded some research with Centre for London. We look at like freight. This shows freight levels here that have been rising, and general traffic levels have been pretty consistent in well, growing in outer London but falling in inner London, but consistent overall. And we're looking at freight. Colleagues set up a project with Team London Bridge and MP Smart Travel called Bikes with Business, where they encourage businesses to think about alternatives to van deliveries using cargo bikes. It's been a really good success. We've had in SE1 in Lambeth and Southwark, we've had over 200 businesses switch. And there's loads of learnings from that in terms of cargo bikes and where they might go in the future, and how we work with in a hub and spoke model. But I believe Isadora will be covering some of that. We're also working with the construction sector. Construction makes up a higher proportion of emissions, and there's more construction in London happening all the time. So we're working with Arup to develop exemplar sites, where we've taken particular sites in Southwark, and we looked at the best way of demolishing, excavating, getting deliveries. And we commissioned some research with the Centre for Low Emission Construction, where we talked to loads of industry stakeholders and drew out the learnings. We're trying to influence central government now with those learnings. So this is a slide about our exemplar kind of site. This is the Tunstall estate. It's a residential estate in Southwark. And the other thing that we're looking at on these sites is NRMM, so non-mobile machinery and plant that runs on diesel, and that they come in different efficiencies as well. So we're trying to up the efficiency of those. A recent project we've been just initiated recently, we're recruiting businesses now, is with Ricardo. They're a engineering and environment consultancy, and they've developed a methodology of how businesses can look at their own emissions. So they can take their greenhouse gas emissions, which come in three scopes, scope 1, 2, and 3, and convert those with emissions factors into air pollution emissions. And the more detail we have, then the more accurate air pollution emission data we can have. So if you put in the types of vehicles you have or the types of boiler you're using, you can have sight of where your emissions are coming from. We've recruited a number of businesses for that, and some very large ones, and we're hoping that would drive them to improve, to look at where people are exposed to air pollution and improve the infrastructure there. We are constantly working on this, and just yesterday we launched a report again with the Centre for London on parcel freight in cities, and how parcel freight is growing year on year because online shopping is growing year on year, and how a locker system or click and collect infrastructure could help people, could do a degree of consolidation at a neighborhood level, and how people, if they walk and cycle to pick up locations, they can pick up parcels, and that would reduce the miles driven by vans in neighborhoods. So that report was out yesterday. I encourage you to have a look at it, and we'll be taking that work further as well. So we're always looking for new partners, and if you have any ideas, or if you've been inspired by anything here and you think you can help us in this journey, do get in touch with me or any one of our team. There's about 7-8 of us in the air pollution team at Impact on Urban Health, and I think my 10 minutes are up, and I'll pass on to Isadora.
Great. Thank you, Mandeep. Hi, everyone. I'm Isadora. I'm a Senior Project Officer at CRP. Many of you might be familiar with CRP's Clean Air Logistics for London project, but today I will be updating you on our Clean Air Freight, or CAF project. So Cleaner Freight is an impact on urban health funded project, helping the freight sector to deliver goods more sustainably and with a reduced carbon footprint. CAF started in May 2022 and will finish in spring 2023. And the project is minimizing the harmful emissions from freight within the London boroughs of Lambeth and Southwark. And the project is split into 2 work streams. We've got the Brixton Microhub pilot and the rail freight study. So in Brixton, we're working with the London Borough of Lambeth, Brixton Bid, and Cargo Bike Couriers Pedal Me to offer Brixton's businesses the opportunity to join a free microhub and cargo bike delivery scheme. So for anyone that's not familiar, a micro consolidation hub is a small site that couriers use for their day-to-day deliveries, as a place to receive, sort, and then send deliveries to their destination. The aim is to reduce the number of polluting vans in the local area and thereby also improving local air quality for residents in Brixton. So you can see how the scheme works in this diagram. Basically, participating businesses redirect their suppliers' deliveries to CRP's microhub in Battersea. And then from there, Pedal Me couriers deliver these goods from the hub to the businesses on electric cargo bikes at any time that's convenient for the businesses, completely for free. So we're also offering this scheme in reverse, meaning that Brixton businesses can also send their products from Brixton to the hub on Pedal Me cargo bikes for free. And then the onward deliveries from the hub into other parts of London are organised by the businesses themselves. Our project has also been featured in Small Business Saturday's social media post, which Ross will be linking to in the chat. In terms of updates and changes, in October, we moved most of our operations from a hub in SE1 to our new hub in Battersea. There we're now renting a 20-foot shipping container located in an industrial area, and we've repurposed it as a micro consolidation hub with roll cages, shelves, and overall storage space. And each participating businesses they have their own labeled and color-coded roll cage or shelf space inside the container. The reason for this is that we want to maximize the environmental impact of our project and reduce traffic in the most congested areas of London even further. You can see some images of the hub on the right. We currently have a total of 8 businesses and organizations using the Brixton scheme, and we aim to sign up a total of 10. These include Brixton Bid, Stems Wilder, The Courtesan, Friendship Adventure, Three Space, Brixton Brewery, Federation Coffee, and London Beer Lab. And you can see some of them in the picture on the right. Our current businesses are using the scheme to receive and or deliver, for example, bar snacks, spirits, flowers, coffee beans, printed newsletters, as well as office and cleaning supplies. Stems Waller, for example, receive 2 to 3 weekly overnight flower deliveries from the supplier in the Netherlands. And Pedal Me then make sure to deliver these to Stems Wilder inside Brixton Village the next morning. And participating businesses have been able to benefit from the same-day quick and flexible deliveries, as our Battersea hub is only 50 minutes away from Brixton. From choosing when they want the deliveries to arrive and avoiding missed deliveries, from free storage space at a hub, and also from saving money by being able to bulk buy items and receive discounts from suppliers. They've also been able to reduce noise related to delivery vans, as well as contribute to local sustainability goals and help clean up Brixton's air. We've also received some positive testimonials. So Gianluca, Managing Director at Brixton Bid, said, "We want our businesses to help us create healthier and less congested streets. Introducing green solutions to business deliveries is part of our mission to make Brixton a more sustainable place." And then we have Hammond, who is the owner of the Corsten, who said, "To be able to make an order and receive it by cargo bike in an hour completely redefines the view we have on available supplies, especially last minute. Our suppliers have often failed us due to rigid delivery days into Brixton and access issues." And then finally, we've got Milena, owner of Stemswalder, who said, "Being situated in an indoor market makes it very difficult for my regular deliveries, especially those happening at night from the whole flower supplier. My only option was to deliver flowers to my home address in Streatham Hill and book a taxi 2 to 3 times a week to help transport the flowers to the shop. This would cause more pollution in the area and also at an extra cost, which I can't afford as a small business. Pelmi has been very helpful and delivers flowers straight to the shop front without causing any disruption to other tenants and on the road." We've also gathered some of our key learnings when working with businesses. So firstly, it is important to consider that after speaking to a business for the very first time, it can sometimes take several weeks or months for this business to discuss this internally and decide whether they would like to participate in schemes like these. It can then also take another few days to receive all required information for them to officially sign up. Secondly, often a business is more likely to sign up if other traders and business owners, which they know and trust, have mentioned the project to them. So local champions have been able to share their own experiences and also recommend others to participate in the project too. Then we've also learned that when promoting microhub projects, it's vital to highlight the free storage aspect more. So we had initially underlined the possible emission savings to businesses, but then shifted our focus onto free storage leading up to the holidays when many busy organizations lack space. And then in terms of operational and better C-Hub related learnings, we've learned that managing different suppliers that are using and accessing the hub can be challenging at times. So due to the unstaffed nature of this agnostic hub with set opening hours, we found that clear delivery instruction, out of our contact numbers, signage, constant communication, and working with suppliers with in-house logistics can help smoothen the process. Now on to the cleaner freight rail freight study. So we've commissioned Steer to undertake this feasibility study into the practical infrastructure arrangements needed to implement increased rail freight into Lambeth and Southwark, including innovative combinations of freight with passengers. And this builds on previous rail freight related work and research that CRP has undertaken. The study aims to prepare for more rail freight deliveries into London, including investigating the potential of passenger trains and also trial zero emission last mile logistics from a centre in South London. So I'm now happy to pass over to Richard from Steer, who will tell you more about this exciting rail freight study.
Thank you, Dora. Hopefully you can all hear me. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Aker from Steer. Delighted to be with you this afternoon. For those that don't know Steer, we are an international transport and cities planning consultancy based here in the UK. We're really pleased to support Impact on Urban Health and CRP on this study, combining our experience working with logistics and looking at sort of last mile sort of solutions and studies such as walking freight. But we've got extensive sort of 40-year experience working across the rail industry and really sort of helping to try and sort of promote and see how the two can be connected and really sort of seek the benefits of what rail can convey and can support and meeting the sort of targets and objectives that Am and Dee shared earlier. So the study in that we've been looking at is very much around sort of identifying what are the opportunities for bringing rail into Lambeth and Southwark, sort of the scope areas, as a way to help try and tackle congestion on the roads, improving the air quality and pollution, and understanding what sort of role rail freight has, and I'm really trying to understand, working with across logistics sector contacts and rail industry contacts, to understand what are some of the barriers and the challenges of what's stopped this happening before, but actually looking at what are those opportunities are there, looking at the specific stations, train services and that within these boroughs, to understand what's feasible, and then start looking at the types of sort of hubs and zero emission services, such as Isadora's just shown, to really see how the two could be integrated. And I think really with this study is seeing what's applicable wider from this study areas, both within London and the rest of the country, and really trying to end with an action plan that we've done from this, to understand how would someone navigate between the different sectors, the different parties involved in that, to try and make these things happen, and understand really where can you start moving different sort of commodities and that by rail, to replace different aspects of the logistics chain, and that from where it's being used by road today. I mean, for those that don't know, the Lambeth and Southwark area, the rail lines predominantly in the area are quite metro sort of commuter operation. So not necessarily always readily easy for bringing extra sort of freight trains and that into the space. But big stations such as Waterloo and London Bridge really feel like sort of key locations that could support onward trains, potentially overnight or outside of peak times, and connect up with sort of closer hubs for onward sort of travelling across the river into other boroughs, as well as sort of directly serving Lambeth and Southwark. So in terms of engaging with the sector, we have found sort of, I think, some of the challenges to almost why is this not being done already, very much around express rail freight feels the concept and the best method for meeting customers' expectations these days for same day, next day delivery, and getting that speed of the service. Express rail freight is yet to be commercially viable. It's still something which we're starting to see more trials of. And as ever, as with UK Railway, go back 40, 50 years, we probably had a lot of infrastructure placed that could support these things. But as passenger growth has grown over the years, the freight side has sadly sort of fallen behind. So in many cases, investment is needed to really integrate rail freight into existing logistic chains and to work around passenger operations. This might include where you could bring in vehicles to quickly unload cages or goods onto the trains, and how you keep goods safe, secure, and away from the passenger side of the stations. I think we've also found that there are some actual, and in many cases actually perceived, limitations of the rail freight and how customers see that, both in terms of the reliability. It's harder to divert a train than you might do with the road if you had a disruption on the motorway, but particularly things like journey times and at what times of day your goods would be travelled. But I think pleasingly, we are finding quite a few themes and sort of tangible opportunities where rail freight can play a part. And I think, most notably, the road logistics sector, certainly at the moment, is facing several challenges: a shortage of HGV drivers, road congestion certainly hasn't gone away post-COVID, and in many cases actually has increased. And the cost of new electric vehicles is still high, particularly in the logistics sector for longer distances. That sort of technology and that just isn't there at the cost to be scalable. Yet the market and the customers and that, it's been clear there's that appreciation for the need to decarbonise, reduce pollution and congestion is feeding much more into decision making, and there's much more interest in alternatives such as rail and what they could do. And we're seeing an increase in trials and collaborations between rail industry and logistics sectors to try and help actually reduce some of those capital cost barriers and really testing concepts and what's feasible. We are currently supporting a company called Various Rail, which you may have heard of, who are currently trialling express freight service between Glasgow and Birmingham at the moment, working with the customer. And actually what that is showing that they can connect the cities 5 hours overnight, get competitive journey times, and demonstrating that the reliability is there. And so trials like this, as well as giving good learnings, really show actually what's available and how best to utilize the assets that are already there. So we're about 2/3 of the way through the work at the moment, but thought this was a good point, I think, really to sort of help demonstrate where this work's going and what it's trying to do. And there's really two emerging options that are being tested over the rest of the study as to how they could be used in Lambeth and Southwark, ideally with wider application. And really, these represent almost probably two ends of a spectrum of possibilities. On the left, there's a concept as parcels and passengers, which is where small boxes, good commodities and that are taken on board existing passenger services. So trains are already running and carrying passengers. These are mainly low sort of frequent volumes. Examples in the past are using almost things that you typically courier. So drawings, models, contracts. And in some cases, it's trialled with Great Western Railway, taking fresh fish from Cornwall straight from the fishermen up to London on board the London services, and that to go onwards to restaurants and hotels. There's certainly more frequent trials for that ongoing, and we think there's an opportunity, particularly at Waterloo, where you've got South Western services going more further afield to the likes of Southampton, Portsmouth, Exeter, for using cupboards or non-passenger parts of the train, and that to convey more freight. It won't have the same sort of volume as taking lots of vehicles off the road, but it's a scalable option and is really effectively already using a lot of the infrastructure that's there today. On the opposite side is dedicated freight multiple unit. So the example of the picture shown there is actually the train that's being used in this trial, a reference between Birmingham, Scotland. So this has taken a former passenger train, so it's a 4-coach train, which they've fully converted, taken out all the seats, has converted to take onboard roll cages through the wide doors so that you can quickly accommodate large volumes of freight. It's dedicated for that use for quick onboard loading and unloading at the other end. But the key point is that it can keep up with passenger rail timings rather than the slower speeds you associate with heavy intermodal container trains. So I think the opportunities in this borough and suppose considerations is being able to access from further afield, where else in the UK can these trains come from? Thinking about the northwest, Birmingham, Scotland, and connecting into the borough, and really thinking about particularly at locations of Waterloo and London Bridge. What are the options for then unloading those trains at that end and identifying zero emission onward last mile opportunities to take the goods where they need to go to within central London and the borough. So we'll be testing that further at the key stations within the borough and really understanding to try and find what's the gap between the infrastructure and the facilities there today and what you would need to properly integrate such a service into the network. So finally, over the next period, we'll continue to work with CRP in concluding the study, undertaking an operational assessment of the stations on the route to understand how these concepts and that would work, and then really trying to help at the end of this with almost a detailed action plan and framework for really to help navigate key parties and the processes and that you would need to do to explore the use of these services and understand the different sort of the different players within the industry and that as to how you can make that happen, and looking at what sort of trials and that can be done within the area to demonstrate as well the feasibility from this, and as much as anything helping almost prove the concept as to how rail can accommodate and take this forward. So I appreciate that was quite a quick canter, just in 10 minutes, as to the work we're doing, but I hope this has given a good picture as to where this work's going and what we're looking to get out from it. I think it's definitely of benefit to the area and helping to try and sort of meet some of the objectives that Amandeep and Isadora have sort of talked through previously, and hopefully in due course you'll be able to see the results from this and go forward and help it be part of the conversation of taking this forward. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard. Yeah, a really great overview, and thank you as well to Amandeep and Isadora before that. We now have 10 minutes for questions. So if we could have you back, Amandeep, as well. I will take the slides down so we just have our 3 speakers. I guess first, Amandeep, you put a link in the chat, which is really helpful, but I guess just maybe an overview of how much how cargo bike deliveries compare to van when staff costs are factored in, if you have any information on that?
Staff costs, as in, there's more staff to be. I don't understand where the staff costs, like what the comparison is, but I do know that in central London, Amazon are now making deliveries in certain zones in central London on cargo bikes, and I've spoken to the person at Amazon that was running that trial, and they're going to make it permanent. It's saving them money, so people are shuttling from the hub to back to the hub, so they're making a number of deliveries in the day. Yeah. So I don't know the specifics, but that Just Economics report is quite Jaws talks about that as well.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. We'll take a look at that as well. Isadora, in terms of businesses you spoke to in Brixton as part of the project, how did you manage engagement there? Because obviously such a big area, and who do you look for and that kind of thing when part of Clean Air Freight?
Yeah, so we engaged with more than 150 businesses in Brixton and the surrounding area. And we did this through basically a combination of emails and phone calls, social media messages. Also had quite a few in-person engagement visits and in-person events. So just going out and speaking to people can help. Yeah, just kind of get that relationship. Sometimes an email gets lost, whereas if you speak to someone in person, you get that connection and you can explain the project a bit better. So yeah, that's definitely helped.
And just to add on to that, I know you're looking for kind of non-perishables and things as delivering from the hub to Brixton. And Pamela's asked, how important are delivery times for non-perishables? I think this might relate to our other project, Clean Air Logistics for London, but could they come by water freight to a hub and then a cargo bike? I don't know if you had any views on that.
So non-perishable. So as part of this trial, we are actually just trying to send it on as soon as possible. I think a lot of businesses have really benefited from the same day delivery. So with Pedal Me, if anything comes before 3 p.m., they can arrange it for the same evening. So we've got a lot of last minute bar supplies or yeah, disposables like napkins and things like that. What that business run out and then they need it the same evening before they open again at 5. So yeah, but if as soon as possible, I say the business really appreciate just being flexible and being quick. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like it's very quick with the cargo bike journeys as well. Richard, how could this approach be replicated across other main stations in the UK? So say outside Southwark and Lambeth, you've given really good examples there, but yeah, any others you can draw on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the key thing and the good thing with this approach is that it can be widely applied, both within London and actually across the UK. Because I think there's sort of two key parts. There's one, where's the demand and the key flows that could be replaced from road to train. In many cases, that's probably sort of some of the longer trunk routes where rail particularly has the advantage over the journey times and being able to get much closer into city centres and that, particularly under electric power, and therefore removing the road emissions. But I think also understanding what infrastructure and that is already there. I mean, some other stations in London, I mean, Euston, although probably sadly before HS2 is now tearing parts of it down, actually had dedicated parcel decks, and there's still ramps at the end of the platform, which means you can then very quickly unload roll cages or goods straight from the train, and then be able to put it onto mini carts, bikes and things almost straight from the platform away and out of the station. Now at Waterloo, and that's probably harder where trains are at a different level, but you'll probably find at several other stations and again across the network that actually you've still got good facilities, which means that some of those barriers for entry for some of these things are much less, or taken further away. And equally, I think there'll be certain places which are natural hubs with sort of good rail access, almost direct links, either with existing passenger trains or with a dedicated freight train concept to bring in from other markets. So particularly around the Manchester, the Birmingham areas, and again you'll get similar benefits from taking a lot of those sort of a lot of those sort of longer distance trucks or the city centre vans and out the city centre streets. So yeah, we think there's quite a good wide applicability for this.
Perfect, thank you. And then Isadora, about the bike deliveries, is there a plan to make these self-sufficient in terms of funding? I know there's been a reply in the chat already.
So it's like some businesses that have picked up the free scheme, it's kind of a behavior change, which really helps business. So they kind of notice that it's not that hard, it's quite easy, and we've got a lot of businesses that just stuck with Pedal Me, so they even do other kinds of deliveries with Pedal Me and keep paying them separately, but they're quite happy to keep paying for something that works. I think they really appreciate just the one-to-one communication between the couriers and them. So we work, for example, in Pedal Me, they use Google Chat Space, so they can get like up-to-date, very live tracking details, or saying we're 10 minutes away, or even if the business says last minute, oh, I had to go out, run an errand, can you come half an hour later? They're just very happy to accommodate any last minute changes. So yeah, I think once they notice that it works and it's easy and that one-to-one connection, they're just happy to keep paying for it.
Okay, brilliant. I can't see too many other questions. I wondered, Amandeep, if indoor air quality was part of the portfolio as well for impact on urban health, and if you have projects around indoor, just as a question from me.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we're kind of looking at this in two ways now. There's outdoor air quality is indoor air quality in many respects, but for people like us who work in offices, we spend most of our time in very clean air. I guess so that's not a priority. What is a priority is probably around schools and around is in like certain maybe social housing situations where you've got multiple air quality concerns that are not always about particulates and NOx. Maybe like there was a tragic case of a young child 2 years old that died from mold in the flat. So all these air quality things can interact, and I guess when a parent's like looking after their child, they're looking at all the air quality things. So we're doing a project in Brixton with Repowering London that's around installing sensors in homes and raising awareness and thinking about behaviours and what's happening there. And if there's a structural thing, i.e. damp, external damp, then they'll pick that up as well. So, but we're very open to doing more in this space. So if people have ideas or if there's other avenues people want to kind of progress on, then yeah, we'd be keen to hear about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sorry, I've just opened a whole other conversation because there's comments about working from home and opening windows, busy road and things. I think Russell's asked, I think probably for Isadora, complete a finding from a corporate customer perspective, they're moving away from a just-in-time approach to more structured, more scheduled deliveries for their suppliers. Do you think a change in expectation should be encouraged?
Yeah, so we do have some businesses that have very scheduled deliveries, set days. For example, Simswell is pretty regular. They always get the deliveries in the morning, very early, for example, every Wednesday and Saturday, or Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, things like that. So yeah, if it does work for the business, especially when it comes to consolidating deliveries, that can be quite helpful. If a lot of businesses can agree on a set time slot, they could consolidate all of the deliveries together and get them all delivered at the same time. So yeah, I think there is definitely positive aspects on encouraging some scheduled and structured deliveries too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. If anyone has any other questions, please put them in the chat and we can follow up with those later on. I will just flip to the next slide because we're really pleased to announce that we have a new event series in 2023 and our first session is on Wednesday the 25th of January. It will be part of the property exchange and we'll be talking to Brixton Bid actually and Cadogan about the high street and presenting on CRP's report from a few years ago about the roles of town centres in London in a post-COVID world and recommendations from those and lots of case studies. So that's a hybrid event based in Westminster City Hall and online. So please do join us. Ross has put the link in the chat. And yeah, this is the contact information for our speakers today. Thank you so much for your presentations. And we hope to see you at our next event. And I will follow up with the contact information. And this is CRP's information. So thank you very much. And we will circulate all the slides. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.